relocate to South Africa. A reaction to what you heard from Eskom today?
Well, you know, I've been coming to South Africa for 4 years, and every year there's something about power and Eskom. And I think, you know, it's not a unique problem just to South Africa. We have issues across the entire continent. I don't think they're simple issues to solve, otherwise they would have been solved already. But I think that with the focus on upgrades, on using some of the capacity you already have, and then also looking at maintenance and how that's done long term, should be something that we learn from the current issue.
Are there any opportunities for GE in this whole saga?
Sure, I think a few. One is that we've found that financing some of the growth in the power sector has been helpful, and we've been able to do this in places like Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, a few other places. I think the other thing is looking at some partnerships. We don't have necessarily a lot of equipment in Eskom today, but Alstom does, and as you may be aware, there will be probably a relationship down the road there. So I think playing with some of these partners, using financing, and then we have a large number of technologies that generate power that you could use in either the interim or as bridge power, whether it's gas, and we tap into the gas fields that are out there, or even looking at diesel power using some of the high efficiency units we have.
All right, so we'll follow those decisions down the line. Let's talk about you, because you've worked across 30 countries. How on earth have you had the time to do that?
Well, I have a very patient and supporting wife, is the first one. Last 25 years.
Has she trekked to 30 countries?
Well, she's a diplomat. And so she's actually pulled me to some of those countries. But the 30 countries have really given me a perspective in Latin America, the US, Asia, and Europe, as well as Africa, to see that there are some problems consistent across the world. People development, talent development, investing in infrastructure, financing. And then when you look at Africa, there's some things that are special and unique to us. How do you connect the dots between places that haven't had any development for decades to bring them into the 21st century? So some good perspective from all those different, and a few languages too.
Well, I was going to ask you that because so Sub-Saharan Africa is your baby, and there was lots of idealism a few years ago about where Africa was growing, and we have seen great growth rates, things like that, but slowing down, and now we've got problems with oil as well. How are you feeling about this continent?
So things are cyclical, and I would not bet against Africa.
Well, GE has invested a lot.
Absolutely. We've invested over $150 million into just the infrastructure for GE to support its growth in Africa. In the last 3 years, we've gone from about $1.6 billion of revenues, or of top-line orders, to last year topping $4 billion. We've gone from 800 employees to 2,200. We've gone from 4 countries where we had strong presence to now over 16. So we've taken a big bet. We think that in a continent that has 30% of the population has no access to power, 70% has no access to power, 20% only has access to healthcare, the other 80% need it, and then aviation, where more than 95% of Africans haven't traveled by aviation. There's a huge opportunity for the next 20, 30, even 50 years.
You are Kenyan by birth,
yes.
I understand. You sound American. Do you consider yourself American? And the reason I ask is because GE, as this multinational, one of the most studied companies in the world. And it's always interesting, when you head into emerging markets, do you use local talent or do you bring Americans over? Just tell me how that's being dealt with right now.
I think a couple of different ways to think about it. First of all, is you need both DNAs. You need to understand the African context, and you need to understand how a company like GE has been successful. I've spent 21 years at GE. Half of that has been outside of the US and half of it inside. I am Kenyan by background, but you have to identify how the rest of the company works, and that's where the American side comes in. I think developing local talent is the primary path. So we've probably put in about, of the 2,200 people, 95% of those people are from the countries that we've operated in. We train them, we develop them, and then we put them into big leadership roles.
Well, tell me how the Locomotives contract fits into this, because as I understand, things were going to be built here. We wanted South Africans to learn. That's what we really want, skills transfer. Is this still early stages, but is that ideal, going to happen?
Call it phase 2. We've already done a fair amount of production and manufacturing here. We've built over 140 locomotives here in the last 7 years as part of an original contract. The recent contract was 233 plus another 60. And what we're doing is we're taking that to the next level. Our local content will be over 50% in the locomotives when they go out of the shop. Majority of that is going to be done by South Africans and also from South African suppliers. So we're rather proud of the fact that majority of the content will be made and built here. We're using that as a platform to not only develop the locomotives, but also the innovation, an innovation and engineering center that will be a part of the commitment that we made around the deal.
Okay, so a lot happening. Now I'm going to put another hard question to you.
Sure.
The American Chamber has recently spoken about BE and ownership levels that are required. So some foreigners would say doing business in South Africa is difficult because of the BE requirements. Of course, I think we as a country hold quite firmly to those. Does GE have a stance in this?
Look, we're all in. Every country, not just South Africa, that you go to wants to have inclusiveness of, or inclusion of their population in whatever value is being generated there. So South Africa is no different. Whether it's equity or ratios of supply or people, you have to support that. If otherwise, you won't be able to play in that market.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck in your new post. Hope to chat to you again. The new president and CEO of GE Transportation in Sub-Saharan Africa.